Hello, and welcome back to SupNerd, the channel where we talk about all things gaming, nerd culture, and everything in between. I'm your host and founder of SupNerdTV, Victoria Cheng, and today we have a guest from our friends at GeekCulture. We have Jake, the games editor. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. And today, obviously, we're going to be talking about something that has both of us excited.
Yeah. Can you guys guess what it is based on the theme of what's going on? A couple episodes ago, we talked about games we were looking forward to this year on PlayStation, and Horizon Forbidden West was one of those games. And I talked about it for a really long time. And now we're finally going to be talking about it. We were really blessed to get early access.
Yeah, early access.
Yeah, and so we played through. You know, we haven't even finished the game yet. I'm only about 7 hours in. How about yourself?
Probably about 20 hours.
Yeah, so like not even halfway, or maybe about halfway through. But I think there are a lot of exciting things, a lot of changes, a lot of updates, and we're just going to dive into that today and share opinions on it. Also, if you guys want to click the link below, I have a video clip of me doing a PlayStation challenge, Train Like Aloy, where I do a couple of archery challenges, so you guys can enjoy that too. I've hit someone in the face and it was great. So, all right, let's talk about first impressions. You know, just to start off, the most obvious thing is how much more open world it is. Mm-hmm. And one of the options in the very beginning, you know how they let you change your brightness settings. There was a new setting to hide your HUD. It's a lot more immersive, I would say now. You know, when you go into the town centers, there's just a lot more happening there. But why don't you tell me your first impressions before we go into the details?
It is definitely a bigger game compared to the first one, obviously. The way they went about expanding the world, the people, the characters, and of course the mechanics where we are, you know, playing as Aloy and then meeting all these new people as well as the new machines. I think they basically taken the old formula, refined it, you know, all the way for everything. And I'm not too sure whether we have even gotten to the new stuff yet in terms of the machines. I think it's really solid so far. And based on, you know, first impressions, I think we have another gem on our hands again.
Definitely. I obviously loved the first game, and I was unsure of how, you know, when something's so good, I was actually satisfied with the ending of Zero Dawn, and I was happy for the game to stop there. That's how much I liked it. It was like I was satisfied and I loved it. But now I can see that they've managed to find a way to keep it really interesting. But I guess, you know, the first thing that you notice would be the graphics. It's different. Aloy even looks a little different. Like she looks a little bit more matured. Even her face shape is different. How did you find the graphics?
Are you playing in what's it called? Performance mode or resolution mode?
Oh, definitely everything maxed out on the PlayStation 5.
So essentially, if you are looking for the most, I guess, beautiful graphics, so you're playing on resolution mode, everything is a little bit more, I guess, has that movie-like quality where it's a little bit slower and less smooth, but everything looks great up close, especially in photo mode. I think when you're able to maybe switch it to performance mode, and I think the smoothness and the reactivity of the action, I think it would be a whole other experience for you.
Interesting.
And I think especially when you're fighting like machines and humans at the same time, it really helps with the speed as well as the accuracy that you have when controlling, you know, her bows and all different tools. It's a different experience, I would say. I wouldn't recommend one over the other. It's just really up to your own preference, whether you want action to be really smooth or you really just want a showpiece game that looks good at every angle.
The details and all the characters are great. It's obviously upgraded. I find her eye roving kind of weird. Do you notice that she's like always like not really looking at anything? She's always like kind of flicking her eyes left and right. Obviously, all of this is really upgraded. The soundtrack is very different as well. I noticed they kind of put, you know, when you do certain fights, there are tracks from the old game that reappear. But overall, I noticed when she's going into the Forbidden West, there's a completely new soundtrack, which is kind of cool. I mean, it is a different game. This game is just a lot more complex now. When you go to one of the first main town centers, there is a lot more activity that you can do now. that you can do before. Before it was slightly more linear. You know, there's a storyline. And in a way, the first game to me is almost like a warm up for the second game. Now there's just so much going on. Side quests don't even feel like side quests anymore. I don't even feel compelled to skip them because the rewards for them are... So the reason why I haven't gotten that far is because I keep getting distracted by the side quests. But that's because the rewards are really good. Like if you don't do the side quest, you're not going to get this really awesome javelin, for example, or this really cool piece of armor, or the story is so compelling. I actually want to find out like why. So they don't feel like afterthoughts, like that can happen in RPGs sometimes. But yeah, in the town center, I thought it was pretty cool. One of the first things I noticed, it reminded me of Witcher and some of those other games. There was like a board game, Machine Strike.
Machine Strike, yeah.
Have you played that yet?
Yeah, I think it's a really fun addition
Yeah.
to the whole experience. Like having a board game in a futuristic medieval world. I have no idea where they got that inspiration to add that in, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's deep. I feel like it could exist as a real board game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'm sure they will make into a board game.
And I'm sure you'll buy it. So
I probably will.
yeah, but as you mentioned, like the world and the towns are definitely more alive. I think if you look back at the first game when you're in a cutscene and you're talking, you know, it's usually cut really tight on Aloy and the character she's talking to. But I think if you notice now where they show cutscenes, it's a bit more drawn back. You can actually see the town and the people going about their daily lives. I think that's a really cool touch. And I think especially at the tavern in the first town, where you see the cook, the patrons, everybody going about. There's just more life, I guess, in Forbidden West. And I think they definitely up their game when it comes to that.
Yeah, more alive is the right way to explain it. I feel more invested in each of the characters. They feel like they have more emotion. They're not just NPCs. I mean, they are, but like you can get a certain attachment to them. And you mentioned the cook. This is new too. You can actually, it's like Zelda or any of these RPGs again, where you can give the cook ingredients and then you're going to get this dish that will add stats to, like temporary stats to you that you can carry on. This did not exist in the first game. So they have the board game that you can also just immerse, like add additional hours into it. There are more skill trees that you can customize as well. Before we had 3 skill trees and it was pretty basic again. They're all really fun, but now they're 5?
6, I think.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a lot. And even amongst those skill trees, there's a lot of additional things that you can do with each of those. So I think you can spend a lot more time in game. It's not just going from quest to quest to finish a storyline. Like if you wanted to hang out in Aloy's world, you can.
I think you mentioned The Witcher previously, and I think they really lean very heavily into the RPG aspects of things. So like even in the starting area, before I jumped on my first, I guess, main quest, I was already fighting like, I think level 15 fire horns or something like that, just to grind and level up. So I think that there's still some freedom and flexibility in which you can approach a game. But I think, like you mentioned, when it comes to characters, when it comes to side stories, the motion capture is so great, the acting is so great, and the writing as well. So it's not filler content in a sense. It's not fetch quests. It's you're still basically doing those stuff, right? You're fighting, you're collecting stuff, but I think the way that they go about it, delivering added narrative on top of that, it's really good and gets the player engaged and, more importantly, immersed in this, in this new world that we are kind of familiar with, but not really.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with the Forbidden West opening up. And of course, then the new tribes, the new machines. So it feels to me that the stakes are already raised right at the top of the game.
Do you think if you had not played the first Horizon Zero Dawn, could you pick up this game?
Actually, I think yes. In the sense that, we come from finishing the first game. And I'm looking at Forbidden West and I'm thinking, why am I without any more tools, without my powers?
Yeah.
Why am I starting all over again? But I think we can take that and, just for gameplay's sake, just throw it our way. But the narrative stuff definitely, it's great if you knew what happened before. I think before you even start the game, there's that there's this short animation when they go through the story all over again.
Yeah.
So that really helps, especially if you're a newcomer. And I think having a fresh perspective on how her bow works, how her different tools work, I think that's actually a great way for newcomers to jump in and experience a more evolved Aloy, I would say. And I think especially with PS5 and all the new people who have bought the console and trying out Horizon for the first time, I think it's a better product to show off the console. It's a better product to show off Aloy, as well as the technical expertise for the folks over at Guerrilla.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, forget about the story from the first game. It's important, yes. But I think the tale they're trying to tell here in Horizon Forbidden West, it's much grander, it's much more exciting, more engaging. And the way they can deliver that in terms of the performances, I think it's probably the better one out of the two right now.
I think, oh man, do I feel that way? I don't know. I don't know.
Not yet.
Okay, maybe not yet because I'm only 7 hours in, but I was wondering that exact question. I was like, man, I feel like I appreciate that much more having done the first game. And I think I would have even found the second a bit confusing initially with the focus and the backstory and like what's going on.
Actually, yeah, you were mentioning we meet Val right at the start.
Yeah.
And the game kind of goes through this tutorial all over again.
Yeah,
but it's very smart in the way they use Val.
Yes.
To teach you about the game all over again.
Yes.
So for me, I think we recognize Val. So we have some, I guess, attachment to him.
Yeah.
But for new players, it's just this guy is just a substitute for us.
Yes.
So we are learning about the game again.
Yeah.
So to me, I think they probably thought about all of that.
Yeah.
And based on what we have played, I think newcomers shouldn't be daunted by the fact that this is a second game in the series, and for us, I think veterans that come back, it's a nice reminder to how the game plays.
You can even see the reaction. It's like the developers have considered it when they meet up again, because apparently after the last game ended, she disappeared for 6 months, and then she meets up with her friends from the previous game again, and you just have this, they capture those moments really well of like, oh my god, I haven't seen you, or I've been chasing you forever. But so the first game, I would say, it was just about a story about this girl, this outcast, her story of who she actually is and how she saves the world. And the second one seems to be a lot more nuanced. It reminds me closer to some of the other games that have come out, like Last of Us, or even God of War, where there's a lot more deeper character development between characters. I've been noticing she's been getting a lot of pressure, like social pressure, which I think is kind of funny. It's like they've just done it so well. It makes me feel awkward as like a player playing. Like I feel it because they're all like, "Yo, I thought we were friends and you disappeared, and what happened? And now you're gonna go off without even having a drink with me to go do other missions and quests." And this is a girl who's come from an outcast background. She was basically outcasted by her tribe in the first one, and no one, there were rules, like social rules, like you can't even talk to her. The people would basically treat her like crap. And then suddenly she became a hero, and everyone wants to be her friend. She's made new friends, and she's just so socially awkward, and you can feel it along the way. She's like, why do I need to maintain this friendship? Like I got things to do. And I think they just managed to capture that really well.
Yeah. So, slight spoilers, I guess, if you haven't played the first game, right? And so I had a chance to speak with Ben McCall, who is the narrative director for Horizon Forbidden West. So he made it a point to tell us that this is Aloy that is no longer that same outcast that you mentioned. So if you didn't already know, Aloy was an outcast, like Victoria said, but she's also a clone of Elizabeth Sobek, who is the creator of the Gaia program. So basically, she's like the clone of the savior of the world. And then Gaia, the program, cloned Aloy to restart Gaia, if I'm not wrong.
Basically, yeah, to restart Gaia with her genetic
her genetic code, which is essentially the same to Sobek. So if you play Frozen Wilds, then you know that Hades, Hephaestus, all of that malignant AI is still around, and that will play heavily into the story. But for the devs, they realized that the first game more or less cemented Aloy's status as the heroine who saved the world. But she was more or less doing it at arm's length with everyone around her, but not really close to her. So for this second outing, they mentioned that simply because of the threat of the Blight, as well as Regala, which I'm sure we'll get into later, she needs to count on the people around her more. So that's where you get on that more nuanced relationships and the character development that goes along with it. So it's less of a story about her saving the world again, but more about her accepting her place in, I don't know, this new world, among the people that she has found. And of course, I think she's still going to be saving the world, but she's going to be doing it more willingly and, I guess, among family, if really.
Yeah, you can see that she's struggling with it. She keeps trying to shake off Varl, Erin, like everyone who tries to help her along the way. People keep advising her, like, you can't do this alone. I mean, saving the world alone is kind of a huge task. And you can see them constantly, like, being really good friends, like as good friends would do, and trying to reach out to her. And she's just like, leave me alone, leave me alone. So you just see this really human connection in the game. And that's why I wonder, like, if you're coming into this game for the first time, I think you'll like it. But I think that appreciation will be even deeper having done like step one first, right? Everything is more complex. Like we mentioned, there are more skill trees. The quests, they're more puzzle-oriented quests now. I think there were only one or two really notable ones in the first one, like getting her shield weave armor, which was like sort of puzzle-like. But yeah, I've noticed you actually have to stop and think of how to get things. If you like puzzles, this is a good thing. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do a puzzle in this game. If I want to play a puzzle game, I would have played a different game.
But I think it works with, I guess, the new tools that they gave her, right?
You learn how to use them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So at the start, we get the pull caster, which allows her to grapple to points and also to pull like objects with grades on them.
Yeah.
So I think that works well into introducing something new to players.
Yeah.
Except for Victoria, who obviously likes to shoot a bow.
Yeah. Oh man, I always forget about the pullcaster. Like sometimes I can't figure it out, and I'm like, oh right, pullcaster. Pull the thing open, right?
Yeah, so it's useful like in puzzle solving, but also in combat, where you see like higher vantage points where you can grapple to either escape from rampaging machines or just to get the drop on your enemies, right?
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, more puzzles, more tools at your disposal. I think we'll get the shoe wing at some point.
Yep.
Where you can be gliding down from high heights, so you don't have to climb. And speaking of climbing, obviously, I think they expanded upon it really well.
Yeah.
There's lots more points to climb. It's not like Breath of the Wild where every surface can be climbed.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of, I guess, realism, you know, it's much more real. It's much more accessible to climb surfaces now. And I think that would go a long way in quelling some of the complaints about the first game.
I never found that to be a huge problem personally, because then I realized in a way it kind of forced you to follow a certain track, and then you finish the game. When you're limited on time as you get older, you kind of just want to finish the game also. But I think it's cool. It is more open world. I do like how many different surfaces that you can go to, that you have that option to explore. Beyond just climbing with a polecaster, you can launch yourself into the air, and with the shield wing, you can glide now, which I haven't, I only just got that maybe like last night actually. So I haven't gotten to experiment with it a ton. Traveling is a bit faster. How do you find the shield wing? Like, do you like it, that addition to the game?
Well, it saves me from dying when jumping off high heights. So I think that's a good addition, right?
She doesn't get as much fall damage anymore,
right?
Generally
I mean, there are places where you can grapple down to save some time. But I think just having that option to just glide in from a high height and, maybe drop down into a group of enemies, I think it's more cool.
Yeah.
Okay? It's more awesome to do it that way.
It's a better entrance.
Yeah. And of course, other than that, Aloy can swim underwater now.
Yeah.
So
I haven't gotten the scuba mask yet, but yeah, diving, you can dive in without
it. So, obviously, again, back to what Ben shared with us, they added a lot of verticality, not just on land, but in underwater as well. So the way that I can tell the story in, I guess, more varied ways, in terms of environmental storytelling, in terms of collectibles that you can find.
Have you found anything interesting yet?
So like even in the starting area, there are like pools of bodies of water that you can dive into, and certain areas are kind of blocked off, or need some additional tools to get past. So there are obviously some important collectibles down there in the water, and I'm not too sure how that plays into the story yet, but I assume that we'll be doing some interesting dives, definitely. Maybe to avoid enemies, and of course, I think underwater fighting is definitely different.
Is there underwater fighting?
I think so, if I'm not wrong. I'm not at that part yet, obviously.
Okay.
But I would assume so, saying that you can't be just hiding from machines underwater all the time. But yeah, it would be cool to see, if that is a thing.
It's gorgeous, though. I did a little dive without the mask, so she's limited on how long you can do it. But it's just so cool how well designed the underwater world is. Normally, when any water level in most games is like a little bit painful. It's like slow. It's like you don't see anything. But this is, I feel like they've done such a good job. Like I don't mind being underwater, and I want that. Like,
she actually swims quite fast.
Yeah, she's fast. Yeah.
And she can dodge in underwater.
Yeah,
which
she
is
can like dart like a
interesting.
fish.
Yeah.
Aloy is like, I don't know what kind of genetic code she has, but it's kind of amazing. Yeah, so the combat is a lot more complex. With the focus previously, you had to hit R3 to kind of slowly scan, and I found that a bit slow. Yeah, in the first game, like I didn't enjoy that whenever I had to use the focus to find stuff. But now there's a quick like pulse sort of scan. So you just tap the R3 and she just does a quick scan of the area. So I think you could tell they've just taken feedback from the first game to really improve how this one works. So you don't need to constantly like be on your focus the whole time. But even if you're using the focus, it's just a lot more detailed now as well. So I feel like they've just done upgrades left and right in all the right ways. Still wondering about the javelin and shield wing, if I like it or not. Right now, I like it generally. There's a part of me that's still like, oh, is it gimmicky? I don't know. Oh, her spear is also a lot more interesting now as well, with all the different attachments that you can do. Just the animations with the spear is a lot more, it's quicker. In the last game, it felt very slow. It was kind of cool, but it was very slow. And it was like, I think she had 4 animated animations for like, the 2 moves that she could do. But you can do a lot more now. There are combos that you can do. Yeah. Which didn't exist before, I think. Right now, I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. Is there anything that really sticks out for you? Like, what have you been especially enjoying in this?
Combat.
Yeah.
It's still going to be the combat, I think, at the end of the day. So, I mean, like you, if you're a purist and you don't want to use like the new tools, you can do that, right? You can still count on your tear arrows, your acid arrows, fire arrows, whatever that is. But to counter your point, the javelin is actually really great against bosses. Part
of the reason I use it is I don't know how to equip it. I'm like, where the hell is it? It's because there's so many new weapons. I'm like, how do I activate it?
I mean, so like the weapon wheel, it's kind of limited in amount of weapons.
It's not on my weapon wheel though.
Yeah, so you can go in and shift it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, the only downside is that it destroys the machines and their parts.
Oh.
So like if you're looking for a way to quickly bring down a machine, then the javelin is really good. But like you mentioned, the pulse stuff, the way that when you scan a machine and they list out all the weaknesses and the different parts that you can obtain, I think that's a great way of adapting the mechanic into Horizon Forbidden West. And then, of course, the moment-to-moment combat where you're trying to tear certain parts of the machine, you're trying to match elements to it. I think it's still awesome. It's still really good. And then with the added variety of machines that they have now, I mean, we meet like the snake-like machine in
really
the first,
early on.
Yeah, in like the first hour or so. This hulking snake beast that has so many different moves, so many different parts, and if that is within like the first 2 hours, can you imagine what comes after when you meet like, I don't know, my old favorite, the Thunderjaw, the Tremor Tusk, and all the other crazy machines that they probably thought up. So combat is always going to be an important part of Horizon, I feel. But now it has that added bonus of the story, the character development. And I think Aloy as a character, I like her more now. She's more, I don't know, human? Is that
more real? Yeah.
She rolls her eyes, she gets angry, she gets pissed off. Her realization that this is not something that she can do alone really, really works into the whole fabric of the game. And still then, together with that awesome combat, which is why I would say this is the better game of the two.
Oh, interesting. It definitely is. There's just simply more to do. The first one felt like a movie you kind of just go through, and this one it feels like a proper, fully fleshed game. There's an arena I know about. I haven't reached that point, but it's hinted in the
It's actually in the
conversation.
first town, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, you're talking about like the melee fights, right? In the arena or against machines. There
I
is
haven't
one.
encountered any arena yet.
Yeah, there is one that is. I
And
think. Have you faced off against machines? But there's also another one where it's kind of acts like a tutorial for your melee combat.
Oh no, I haven't found that.
I think it's just opposite the tavern.
Oh shoot. Oh, I didn't step into there. I haven't even fully explored the town because I'm like, oh my god, I just need to get through as much as possible. And I was trying not to get distracted. I still got distracted, but I try not to get distracted. Yeah, but there's just so much that you can do and hang out and make like zero progression in the game because you're so distracted by all this cool stuff that's going on. Little touches in the old world that comes up, and then it never really occurred to me. When they call the ancients, right? It means us, or maybe actually future us. Before the apocalypse, and I realized like ancient loot box, and what I was actually looting was like the boot of a car that she was just like opening, and it was called like the ancient. Anyway, I thought that like little things like that I've just never really thought about that I
like ancient shiny bracelet is actually like a digital watch or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I think the machines, originally in the trailer, it looked like it was just all dinosaurs. So I was like, okay, dinosaurs are cool, but like, why is everything a dinosaur? But now that we've actually been playing, I can see that there's like a huge variety from hippos to more birds, kangaroo. There's like a little kangaroo.
There is.
Yeah, it's really. I stumbled upon it when I did the first tall neck. There's like a kangaroo type creature. I was really worried it was going to disappoint.
Were you looking forward to be disappointed?
No, I don't know. When you love something so much, right? Like you're like, how could it be better? How could it possibly be better? And
Fair enough.
They've managed to keep it interesting. Like I won't get bored, because that was the other thing. I was like, if I did a repeat, because Frozen Wilds I wasn't thrilled about. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like the whole snowy thing and an extension of the story. I wasn't too enthralled by the story. How can the story needs to be good, and the gameplay needs to be good. The graphics needs to be good. And I still need to love Aloy. So you're right. They've kind of made her feel more human. All the small minor expressions that she makes, except for her weird like roving eye thing. Yeah, so I think all in all, so far so good. We haven't gotten far enough in the game, so we won't be spoiling it. Any ratings? What's your favorite PlayStation narrative-driven game?
In recent memory, I'll probably say Ghost of Tsushima.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, just maybe it's the aesthetics, I guess the
or the theme of the samurai.
Yeah, the whole theme of the game, and I just like Jin Sakai as a character. He has that character development as well.
Yes.
Right, from a noble to becoming someone who shuns his traditional values.
Yeah.
To do whatever it takes to win, and I think that gameplay over there, as well as, again, it's combining gameplay with really well-written stories, and then having the player engage in that is always a recipe for a really good game. But I see it in Horizon Forbidden West as well.
Do you happen to know if her choices affect
the relationships?
Yeah,
I think so, definitely. I wouldn't expect them to put in like a fierce answer, a smart answer
with the same result. Yeah, for context, for those of you guys who are listening, there's a guy, Aaron, for example. Okay, first of all, everyone has a crush on Aloy. Have you noticed that? Like, everyone who encounters her is like madly in love with
Aaron
this girl.
and her had a thing going.
Kind of. Aaron and Varl looks at her gaga eyes. The Sunken looks at her, was like, please,
she's
marry
literally
me.
the savior of the world. So
Yeah. Okay, and she's like a hot redhead. But anyway, all of them at some point early in the game are basically like googly-eyed for her. Actually, the Petra as well. They all have a crush on her. But she can react to them. They're like, where have you been? And, you disappeared on me. And one of her answers was like, look, I don't have time for this, versus like a nice answer versus like a more balanced answer. And I actually wonder if it affects the gameplay. I haven't experimented.
In the first game, I think there were some allies that you could have missed out when you were defending Meridian. I think that this could be an expansion of that, in that, maybe certain quests won't open up for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't get certain advantages when you're doing certain missions. I don't know. You get to play Aloy as who you want her to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's an extension of that player agency that we were talking about earlier. And yeah, it just gets you more attached to this character, your Aloy, right? Compared to mine. So we might make different decisions, and I would expect different consequences to come out of that. So we'll probably come back to this in the future when we
Yeah.
dive deeper into the game and then compare notes. But yeah, I think that is something really interesting, and we should really keep an eye on that.
I think what I'm gonna do is after I finish the first round, I'm gonna stream it a second time and choose like all like the hard ass answers where she's really like mean and see what happens and over time and with all her relationships. I think that's it. I mean, we have to get through the rest of the game. We don't want to spoil it for you guys. The game is dropping on February 18th. I think we're going to drop this podcast right after the game drops. So we don't want to spoil it too much. I don't really think we spoiled anything.
I still want to see Carrie Ann Moss at some point.
Carrie Ann Moss?
Do you know she's in the game?
No.
She's Tilda, so she's one of the ancient ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know.
Yeah, it was in the latest trailer that they shared.
Yeah.
So there's this character towards the end.
Oh, yes. That's right.
so-
yes, that's right. Yeah,
So we
yeah.
confirmed that was actually Trinity. So Carrie Ann Moss is in the game.
Ah.
Then you have Regala, of course, as Angela Bassett.
Yes,
So, I can't wait to see what these characters bring to the table.
definitely.
Yeah, and we'll probably dive deeper into what the ancient ones have to do with Aloy and all the AI that's running around. So that's definitely something that we should look forward to as well.
I feel like there might be some commentary on like real world things. In the first game, they seem to have some commentary as well on environmental impact, and that's why the world ended, and that's why Gaia had to save the way. Play the game. You'll know what I'm talking about. I'm sure they'll be making some commentary. I feel it a bit. Like there's a bit of like little
They
bit of
did that,
shade
right?
with
Right at
like
the
Elon
start.
Musk and stuff. Like you could feel it. Like these guys are trying to go to the moon, or go to another planet, and
And they lied to the people about it.
and you could tell they're just very like money oriented, and I'm just like, I feel like there's commentary here, but that's what makes Horizon so good as well. It's almost like a reflection of the old world, which is us, and like direction we could possibly go in and become extinct. So lessons to be learned. Any final thoughts?
I still want to play the game more.
Yeah, I know.
That's probably what
Honestly.
we concluded on. But yeah, like Victoria said, whether you're newcomer, whether you played the first game or not, I think as one of the marquee releases this year, if you have a PlayStation 5, I think it's a no-brainer just to get Horizon Forbidden West.
If you have a PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
Sorry if you don't.
I know that's really hard to get right now.
I really wonder how it plays on a 4, to be honest. That I would be curious to know. So if you guys have...
We've seen trailers of that, the PS4 performance.
Comparisons?
It's not that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, right. But obviously, it's not going to be as fast loading. There are some instances, even in the PS5 build, where we go from area to area. There's some slight loading here and there.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna fix that with day one patch. I think.
Yeah.
But I think on the PS4, if you have a PS4 and you haven't migrated to the PS5, I think it's also a great game to play there. You know, unlike us who was obviously spoiled by like super fast loading SSD.
Yeah.
You just have to wait a little bit.
But PS4 Pro is not bad, honestly.
Yeah.
I think you guys will be okay. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think, as a freaking Aloy fangirl, has not disappointed so far. And Aloy and all her freckles and badassness is still there, still solid. And I expect just a grown-up, mature, Aloy. They even commented on it. She was like, they're like, I didn't expect the savior to look so young. So I think this is her growing up story.
She has a statue right in the middle of the studio.
Yeah, I know, like this.
Kind of.
Kind of, but minus the watcher.
Yeah. It is kind of the same.
Which I'm going to steal this statue after. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining us today at SupNerd. We're going to be updating when we finish the game. I'm sure you guys will be updating your review as well, right?
Yeah, we'll be dropping it at embargo. So hopefully it'll turn out good.
Yeah. It will. Think positive.
Yeah.
It will be good. We do have a video version of this podcast available on YouTube and MeWatch. So if you're listening, you can also watch us and from the links below on SupNerdTV. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of SupNerd. If you want to check out our other episodes, you can follow or subscribe to us on MeListen, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to get in touch with us and some feedback, maybe some of your input with your experience or Horizon or Aloy, reach out to us on Instagram at SupNerd.tv or myself at Victoria Cheng. Or what's your handle on Instagram?
I'm just going to plug Geek Culture.
Or Geek Culture. If you want to reach out to Jake. This podcast was made possible by Mediacorp. See you later, nerds.